Hey guys, welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. This is our weekly opportunity to share and create and deliver wonderful news to entrepreneurs, business leaders, associate business leaders, anybody who's out there that wants to develop their skills and wants to become a better leader. Leadership is an amazing tool to help create opportunities for yourself and for others that you work with. And I think that along the route of people becoming better leaders, sometimes organizations forget to invest in the professional development of those individuals. And it makes a big difference when you can have the support, you can have the creative drive, you can have whatever you need to become the person that you want to become. And so I'm glad that you all are able to join me today. I'm going to deliver some great tools for you, some great opportunities for you. I want you to pay attention. Later on in the chat room, I'm going to upload some exercises for you, some things that you can do, some articles that you can read that's going to buoy the information that we're going to be talking about today. But I want you to not worry about that kind of stuff as much as I want you to pay attention to some of the things we're going to be sharing with you today. I think you're going to be very pleased at some of the things we're doing. So for those of you who are just joining in and just following for the first time, whether you're going to looking at this through Facebook Live or you're looking at this through YouTube, this is the 7th part of a 9-part series. Today's information is literally going to be based on an article that I wrote a while back ago, and I've since updated that article on LinkedIn. It was a very popular article. I mean, thousands of people read this and downloaded it and used it for training and developing their team. So if you really want to pay attention and really want to get the tools that you need to develop strong teams, I want you to pay attention to what we're doing today. Before we do anything, I got a cute little video I want to show you all that a buddy of mine put together for me. And if you're interested in something like this, I think definitely let me know, because I will make sure that you have access to whatever you need to have access to make it happen. Check this out, guys. Is that cool or what? That's my little Coach Powell video. He did like 9 videos for me, which is incredible. I mean, just an impressive stuff. And so I know some great people. I'm going to put their information in the chat as we move on today. So if you are following us for the first time, or if you are interested in anything involving leadership, it doesn't really matter. Just want you to pay attention. But I want to make sure that I get a chance to give you a shout out on the screen today. So if you are following us for the first time, if you're introducing yourself for the first time, do me a favor and just put your name and your information in the chat, and I will make sure during the program I give you a little bit of a shout out so people can recognize that you're here. Also, I may ask you some specific questions based on where you're coming from. So definitely tell me where you're from, what your name is, what your name of your company is, or what your title is, what you do for your company, and maybe even what your interest is in leadership when it comes to developing teams and that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about today's topic is really how you put together amazing teams. And what I'm going to cover is some of the most incredible team building ideas that I think I've ever seen. And I will tell you that. And I use them a lot when I'm talking to, I'm training entrepreneurs and organizations. We're talking about team building. How do we create leaders? How do leaders create amazing teams? And a lot of things that are myths that I'm going to just kind of blow up in today's topic. We're going to talk about some of the things that people believe is important to do or think about in teams that are simply not. I'm going to share with you some wonderful quotes from some amazing leaders that I think can help you build on your team building experience. I see Jean's out there. Great, Jean. That is amazing. I see you out there, Jean. If there's anybody else out there that's out there, Jean is one of the most amazing attorneys that I know. If you have issues involving traffic or anything like that, you definitely want to give her a call. Definitely watch her show on Facebook. And Gene, if you could post a link to your show on Facebook, that'd be great, because that's going to help. I see Travis is here too. That's great. Thank you very much for hanging in there. This is great. Travis is another new friend of mine, and he's coming in for the first time, which is really, really cool. Travis, why don't you go ahead and put your information in there and tell everybody what you do and where you're from, and I'll definitely echo that. And if there's any links or anything you guys want people to pay attention to, go ahead and put that in the chat as well, because, you know, as we continue to go through there, there'll be some things that we can feed off of, which is great. Okay, so today's topic is Jasmine. I see you, Jasmine. Thanks for coming, Jasmine. I believe Jasmine is one of my new friends on LinkedIn. Jasmine, if you can, do me a favor, tell us, you know, where you're from and what your leadership title is. And I think we connected on LinkedIn because you are a Kent State alum. I could be wrong about that, but definitely if I am, you know, just let me know. If I'm right, let me know as well. And again, we'll make sure we give you a great shout out. Okay. So today's topic I think is probably the most interesting of all of the series that we've been talking about. We've been talking about the 9 steps to relationship mastery. And as you climb up the ladder to relationship mastery, you're going to find that you develop more and more trust with the people in your network. I think after the series is over, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do some more talking about how to establish and how to define what a network is. Because I think sometimes we believe that networking is something other than what it really is. And networking, just to let you know, is about establishing and building relationships that you can then leverage to create the opportunities you want to create. It is critically important that you understand that networking now is something you do for your future. It's not something you do out of an act of desperation or something that you have to fulfill or need now. It's something that you look forward to. You look at your strategic plan, or you look at your plans for your future, and you think to yourself, who am I going to need to have around me at this time when I'm starting to actualize my vision or start to reach and achieve my goals? Who needs to be with me to make that happen? And then you want to start to reach out to those kinds of individuals to bring them on your team, so they're at the ready when the time comes for you to activate their opportunities or leverage this relationship. But you first have to have the relationship before you leverage it. I think sometimes when people are thinking about networking, they make the mistake of thinking that, you know, they can build a relationship or they can build a relationship based on a transaction. And that's not the case. What tends to happen when you build a relationship based on a transaction, that's what your relationship is about. And so outside of that, you don't have any way to connect, any way to discover, any way to leverage a ton of other opportunities or resources that one or the other may have. And so it's critically important that you learn how to build very, very strong networking teams for yourself and for other people that are on your team. So when you get into this team building mindset, most people think about it in terms of just organizations or associations, or maybe their volunteer opportunities. I'm going to tell you that you should extend this to your networking, to everything that you're doing. And when it comes to establishing a strong network for yourself, you should be thinking about how you can develop stronger teams. All right, so there are 2 key ideas that in order for you to build strong networks that you just can't do without. The biggest idea is, you know, making sure that you are understanding what the attributes and the desires and the delivery systems that are used by excellent recruiters. Let's talk about that for a second. An excellent recruiter is a person who can identify the right people and attract them to the opportunity, and then create an ability to leverage them in a way that creates a win-win opportunity for everyone. I'm going to say that again. You have to identify the right people with the right talent, with the right connections, with the right resources, and you have to attract them to you, and then you have to deploy them or create the environment by which you can leverage that relationship and they can leverage you. Now, there's some simple rules that I need you to understand, to put in place when you're doing this. When you're leveraging someone else and leveraging someone else's talent, it has to be in a win-win partnership kind of opportunity. And win-win means you both win, means you both are mutually benefited by the relationship. You both have an opportunity to play, you both have an opportunity to enjoy, and it makes sense for you both to be involved in whatever you create. When you do this well, everybody wins. I can't stress this. If your desire is to just win and you don't care what happens to your partner or what happens to your team or what happens to people that you're networking with, I think you're playing the wrong game. And there's really a lot of danger in this. When you are seeking a win-win opportunity so that everybody wins, then you have the highest likelihood to be successful. When you're seeking the opportunity where for you just to win, then you absolutely have the lowest chance of being successful. The math on this is simple. If you think about the illustration that I gave you guys earlier, and if you didn't see it, I will post it in the chat so you can come back and look at it. The illustration is of a leveraging opportunity where you're going to see on one side people who have skills and abilities and talents, right? And on the other side, you're going to see people who have strong professional relationships. Well, relationships win. In fact, relationships win 85% of the time over your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Your typical KSAs that we tend to put people into when we talk about jobs or career success or what they need to have, we think they have to have the KSAs. That's what we measure in the interviews and on the resume. We're looking for the KSAs, the knowledge, the skills, and their abilities, right? Well, what studies now show, and they're clear on this, is that it doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, it doesn't matter how talented you are. If the right people don't know, like, and trust you, they don't have a positive relationship with you, they don't have a positive association with you, and they're not going to be willing to take a chance on you. Because there's another study that shows that people are more likely to not take the risk on somebody new and actually give the opportunities to somebody who's already a known entity in their environment. And so whatever opportunities there are, if people don't know you well within your network, then you're missing those opportunities. In fact, 6 opportunities out of 1 you are missing, right? So you want to flip this odds. You want to win 6 times more than you lose. That means you have to learn how to establish the right people in your network and create the right kinds of relationship with them. That's what we're going to talk about today. So thing one, you got to be excellent at recruiting the right people. You got to find them, you got to identify them, you got to find them, you got to create an opportunity for them to win, and you got to be good at that. Number 2, you've got to be a brilliant communicator. Now, I talked about this in lesson number 1. So if you want to go back and watch that video and take a deep dive into that idea of how you listen and why listening is so important. I took an opportunity. I want you to think about that. When you're listening to others, what you are doing when you do the type of engaged listening that I suggest you do, you're actually making them feel understood. They're feeling like whatever they're presenting, whatever they're saying, whatever they're about is meaningful and is important. If a person doesn't feel significant, if they don't feel meaningful, if they don't feel like what they're doing and what they're saying is important or well received by other people, they're just gonna feel rejected. And nobody likes that. Nobody likes to feel rejected. No one likes to feel like they're not doing anything that's meaningful or relevant in the space that they're in. And so to the extent, especially as a leader, that you can ask really, really, really good questions and then help people feel understood when they answer those questions. And those questions need to be questions that they delight in answering. All right. It can't be an interrogation. It can't be something that people feel like when you're asking them questions, you're in discourse or conversation with them, it can't feel like you're pressuring them for the answer. Because when they're feeling pressured, again, that's not good. That's not good communication. They're not gonna the law of reciprocity is gonna work against you, because you're gonna make them feel bad. You're gonna be talking over their head. You're gonna be using language they don't understand. They're gonna be using acronyms and so on and so forth in your speech, and that's gonna put them off. They're gonna feel like you're a blowhard. You like to hear yourself talk, even if you're asking questions, right? Because there's questions that only you know the answers to. That's a bad way of questioning. And so go back to listen to lesson number 1 on Listen Up, and you'll learn how to ask great questions and be engaged in a meaningful way, even on the internet, whether you are actively engaged with somebody in conversation, or you're actively engaged in somebody in a chat, or you're trying to create a relationship online vis-a-vis LinkedIn or Facebook or any type of social media where you have the ability to engage. That's the key. Engagement is the key to this thing. So those are 2 things, right? You have to be an excellent recruiter, and you have to be a brilliant communicator. You need to make sure that people feel understood. You have to make sure that people feel like they're special. If they don't feel special, they're not going to want to find out more about you. They're not going to be interested in joining your team. But the assumption that we're making in this exercise or in this presentation is that you've already built relationships. And now what you're trying to do is reconnect, is trying to get them closer, bring them in to where you are so that they can experience more of you, what you bring to the table, what you are all about, right? And so it's critically important that you follow these 6 incredible team building ideas and concepts. I promise you, if you follow these concepts, you will be phenomenally successful. If you do not follow these concepts, you will lose big time. You will have at least, think about the ratio, 1 to 6, right? I told you, right? Your opportunities will begin to diminish. In fact, you will probably stand still, which means you are slowly dying. You are slowly moving away from growth and development. You're moving away from advancement. You're moving away from success. Even if you're standing still, you're not going anywhere. Everything else is moving around you. Think of yourself as like a pebble in the water in the river, right? Everything is moving around you. You're not going anywhere, but everything is moving around you, and slowly the water is eroding you. I would rather be the boat on the water, just headed out to the ocean. At least I'm going somewhere, and I'm going somewhere fast. I got a wind on my sail. I got the right people at the helm. I'm moving things forward, and I'm getting somewhere fast instead of the slow road to nothing, to nowhere, right? So developing the right networks, developing the right teams, learning how to use them well has everything to do with your success. If you don't do it well, you're going to fail miserably. And you'll understand quickly the reason why. So let me go through the 6 concepts really quickly, and then we're going to take a deep dive into each one of them. And if you have any questions about any of them, feel free to throw them in the chat. When I take a break, I will go back through the chat and I will catch you up and answer those questions to the best of my ability. And at the end, even if you have questions about anything related to business development, anything related to how to create more opportunities within your network, feel free to ask them. I'll be on the chat as long as you want me to, or on the call as long as you want me to. And we will definitely try to work through the program. Oh, I forgot to tell you. One of the reasons why I do this, and by the way, I've been doing this, Coffee, Tea, You and Me, which is a program I started almost 20 years ago. I've been doing this for a while. Every Friday from 3 to 5, I've been giving away all the time that I have, all the energy I have. I answer any question that anybody has. I hold nothing back because I want to make sure that small businesses, especially small women-owned and minority-owned businesses, have the best opportunities to succeed. And if you all are thinking about anything that you think you want me to do for local small businesses or anything like that, feel free to ask me, give me a call. I'll put my number and everything in the chat later on. And so, think about that, because I love to do public presentations. I love to work with people, especially now we got Zoom. We can do all kinds of stuff virtually, so it's just pretty cool. So think about that kind of stuff. All right, so here are the 6 rules that you have to do to develop strong team building ideas. Number 1, learn to push together instead of pulling away. Number 2, pride cometh before the fall. Number 3, leave room for everyone to create. Number 4, don't be afraid of success. Number 5, no wasted talent allowed. Number 6, death to redundancy. Let me shoot them at you again. 1, push together, don't pull away. 2, pride cometh before the fall. 3, leave room for everyone to create. 4, don't be afraid of success. 5, no wasted talent allowed. And 6, death to redundancy. Okay, so don't worry about writing these down. If you write them down, that's fine, though, but you don't have to, because I am going to post the entire article and the whole presentation and illustrations and all that kind of stuff in the chat later on. You can download it and read it, and I might even come up with some kind of meaningful contest that we'll have at the end of this thing, and who knows. Sometimes I put this stuff together, and I think about new stuff as I'm delivering, so anything can come out of me, right? Okay, so the first concept in putting together incredible teams is learn how to push together and not pull away. You know, what do I mean by that? There's literally no I in team. A lot of times teams don't work well together because there's just too many individuals on the team. There's not people on the team who really understand or value a contribution to a group. They like to be individual contributors, and they're not great team people. You don't want to recruit people like this, and it starts to show up though early in the process. When people start talking to you, if people come to your team because of you or because something they need, then you might be dealing with a very selfish, self-centered, self-directed person. But if a person comes to the team because they value the team and they want to be on a winning team, that's different, right? That's a person who says, you know, I want to be on that team because I noticed them, I've seen them, what they do. I like them. I like their strategy. I like their technique. I like who they are and how they represent themselves. I want to be a part of that. So just think about that. The first thing you got to do is make sure that you're orienting. Even after you've identified the right person, you have to make sure they have a great orientation to your team vision, the team strategy, the team members themselves. They have to have the exposure to those people, and they have to fall in love with them. Quite frankly, if they don't like the people that they're going to be working with, they're not going to be a great member of the team, no matter what their skills are. Right? If they can't communicate effectively to the team, if they're not willing to encourage other members of the team, and other members don't, then if they don't like them, if it doesn't gel, you need to not bring them on the team. But if you brought them on the team correctly, and I think one of the ways you do that is by having different sets of interviews, right? Before you say, this person, I want to bring them on the team, interview them in their location, take a team member with you, right? Interview them in your location, bring a team member with you, and then interview them in a neutral location and bring another team member with you. And make sure in the interviews that you have a cordial conversation, not just an interrogation as to their skills and their talents and abilities and so on and so forth, but make sure they understand what yours are. Make sure they understand what your teams are. Make sure they understand the members of your team and what they bring to the table and what they're going to be able to deliver to the team. Because when everybody knows what's relevant and what's meaningful and what they're doing, they're going to work. They're going to perform more effectively on the team right away. And you're not going to have this, you know, I'm trying to feel each other out. I'm trying to see if I can get along. You can welcome everybody with open arms, and it's going to feel like, you know, you don't really need that 90-day trial period or whatever it is you give them to see if they're going to be a good fit. You don't really need that when you orient them correctly, you know, and when you put the time up front, and that's the thing, put the time up front in the orientation process, and you're going to be able to pick people who can pull together. You're going to pick people who value each other. You're going to pick people who want to be in the same room with each other for whatever time you're going to be with each other to do whatever you need to do to accomplish things. So you got to make sure you do that right. If you don't do this right, then your team is going to suffer. And your team is going to start looking at you and go like, why did you bring this knucklehead to the team? Why have you brought this person to the team who can't keep up or doesn't want to play with us, right? And I'm not talking about things that we normally get away from, like nepotism or pre-existing relationships and things like that. I don't really think there's a lot wrong with that, as long as the person is talented and accepted and has the ability to work well with the team without fear of somebody thinking that they're not up to snuff or they don't really cut the mustard or whatever that is, because you don't really want people to feel inadequate and belong to the team, because they don't feel like they belong if they feel inadequate. So you're going to make sure that they feel adequate, up to the task, up to the challenge, know their responsibilities, know the expectations, and are very clear about that. That's back to that communication thing I told you earlier, right? Okay, so number 2, pride cometh before the fall. I've seen leader after leader after leader lose themselves and really, really fail under the ego trip. And I like to think of myself as a leader that is a servant leader. I think that everything I do is in service to others. And I want to make sure that, I'm so serious about that. When I bring people onto my teams or anything that I'm trying to do, I make sure I give them permission to tell me when I'm ego tripping. You gotta have permission to tell me when I may be doing something. I may be letting the power get to my head, right? Or the influence that I have. I may let that run amok, and I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to have people think I'm doing that, and I can't afford to do that. And so good leaders, understand that there's really no room for their ego on the team. While you are a leader of the team, you're still a member of the team. Because if you don't see yourself as a member of the team and you're not willing to do the work that you're asking your team to do, and you're just putting stuff out there for them to do, you're just, delegating, and you haven't even demonstrated to them that you have or have been willing or will be willing to put the work in, especially when it's required, then you're not going to get their respect, and you're gonna look like someone who is really all about themselves and all about whatever demands they have. And again, there's a difference between leadership, management, and supervision, right? Leaders understand exactly what I'm saying right now. There's no room for your ego, because people need to not just respect you because you have authority. They need to respect you because they like you. They need to respect you because you like them. They need to respect you because they know that you've got their back and you are one of them, not separate from them, but one of them. And you have the extra opportunity. And my first thought was burden, but it's really an opportunity to lead. You have the extra responsibility, the extra gift that is to lead. And so they need to be comfortable coming to you with problems, issues, miscommunications, whatever happens. They need to be comfortable with that. And there's no room they won't be comfortable if your ego is so big that it keeps them from asserting themselves and being able to express their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own desires. And you don't want that to happen. So number 1 was push together, don't pull away. Number 2 was the pride cometh before the fall. Number 3, you need to leave room for everyone on your team to be a part of the creation of not just where you're going, but how you're going to get there. That means your vision and your mission is not your sole responsibility as a leader. You need to have those conversations where you ask those questions to your team and to your team members. If everything was perfect, where would we be? Where would we go? What would we have that we can't have now? What would we do that we're not doing now? What could happen for us that's not happening now? Because they need to have a framework for the vision, right? And that vision itself needs to have the right values and the right principles that undergird it. And they become sort of your affirmation statements or your benchmark that you try to reach along the way. if you want to know more about that, then keep listening to the next couple of exercises. We're talking about how do you get strategic and you do strategic planning and all that kind of stuff. But really, you have to leave room for others to create. If you find that you've got it all worked out and you've got the entire plan and there is no room for anybody else to breathe in this thing and to give life to it and to help you create more from it, then I think your team members are probably not going to feel as valued as you need them to feel in order for them to give their best to the team and to the effort. Whatever the effort is, whatever project, program, or process that you want them to do, I think you're going to have a hard time getting them, especially Americans or Western society trained individuals, because they have a level of self-governance and selflessness that's going to stop them from belonging to something that they're not going to feel like they're making a meaningful contribution to. And that's just the way it is. So you have to think that through. If people are going to need guidance and direction, yes, but they're going to need guidance and directions after they've already contributed to setting the guidance and directions that they're going to need. And so you'll find that, and from a developmental point of view, people who contribute their thoughts to something are going to be more accountable for completion and for doing the tasks required to make those things happen, because they've made a contribution that is well desired, well deserved, and well respected by the leaders that they have. And so when you leave room for everyone to create, and everyone then can have a hand in the guidance and direction of whatever happens, as a leader, you also get to do something else. You get to walk away quite a bit. And you don't have to sit there and watch everybody, because they're all watching each other. They're all accountable to each other, right? And you don't have to be a part of every situation. You don't have to have your hand in every direction or everything that's happening. You can actually allow your team to co-lead themselves, each other, and be accountable for those opportunities with each other. I'm doing a piece on accountability. In fact, I've already done it, and I'm going to post it. I think that I posted it on my LinkedIn profile actually earlier today, and it's a great little 11-page document that talks about how do you develop accountability partnerships and how you move them forward. If you get a chance to download it and read it, I love your feedback on it, by the way. I might even post it in the chat after the meeting is over today. So what's important about this is making sure that you understand that the leadership of old was, the leader took responsibility to provide all the guidance and all direction for the entire team. And that's great when the team is not a team full of amazingly talented people. But when you have a team full of amazingly talented people that are gifted in what they do, that have experience and are willing to lend their expertise to the effort of your team, you really can't leave them out of the planning process. You can't leave them out of the strategic process. You need to invite them in, because they're going to find things that you can't see. They're going to see things that you didn't think about. They're going to create things that are going to be better and going to make the whole team better. And they're going to develop the respect and love of their peers, which is critically important, because when the rough times come, and they will come, you need them to be comfortable and confident in each other, as well as you as a leader. So you have to make sure you do this. Number 1, push together, don't pull away. Number 2, pride comes before the fall. Number 3, leave room for everyone to create. And number 4, don't be afraid of success. You cannot, as a leader, look at your team, look at last year, and look and say to yourself, well, if we just can do what we did last year, that'll be good enough. If you do that, you're not growing. They're not growing. They're not going to appreciate it. Yes, it's true. All of us can get comfortable and complacent and can not push the envelope or not stretch ourselves. But as a leader, you have to pick winners You have to choose winners to be on the team. And then you have to lead them to success. And success is an ever increasing journey that moves you forward and forward and forward. It doesn't mean you win every time, but it does mean you get better, and you want to get better. You want to grow. You want to shake things up. I always tell people, if you find that your team is here, but they have the capacity to be here, right? I'm doing this backwards on the video, right? This is the stable part. This is the movable part. They're here, but they have the capacity to be here. Your job as a leader is to continue to move the needle. And even when they get to their capacity, do you think they got the capacity? Stretch them a little bit further. Keep going. Because the more you push the envelope, the more you demand or create opportunities for more excellence to show up once amongst each other, right? Everybody's going to feel valued. Everybody's going to feel like they're a part of a winning team. They're going to feel successful. Even if they don't meet the goals, they're going to feel the growth. They're going to see themselves growing. They're going to feel like they're participating in something. I don't know about some of you all. I wasn't the best student when I was in college. Not high school either, really. I wasn't the best student. It wasn't something that I thought was important at the time. And so I didn't always give it my best effort, but I learned in every class. And what was important to me at the time was never the grade. It was about what I learned and how I could apply what I learned to move myself forward. So even if I didn't get some classes I didn't get a good grade in, but they were my favorite classes. They're my favorite teachers and my favorite classes. Why? Because I felt like I grew so much. And if the teacher ever gave me a rating or whatever, that we didn't do that back in the day. But if I did, I would always give the teacher a great rating. And it wasn't dependent on my grade. It was dependent on my growth. Because I might not have gotten to the place where the professor wanted me to get to, but I got to a place that was better than the place I was before. And that was what was important to me at the time, was discovering who I was and what I was all about and what was important to me, not just grades. Now, cool bonus if I got good grades. But as long as I was moving forward, I was happy. And I think you find that people, that's going to be true for a lot of people. As long as they see themselves moving forward and they're growing, they're going to be happy. They're going to continue to grow. They're going to continue to participate. They're going to continue to do meaningful things, and they're certainly going to help others along the way, especially if you give them that room to grow, right? So don't be afraid of success. Choose winners, and then act like they're winners by giving them things that keep them growing, keep them moving forward. If you don't choose winners on the team, a lot of people avoid that, right? They don't look at successful people and think they can put them on the team. And I think you should challenge yourself. Get the best that's out there. Don't settle for less than the best because, I can't afford blah, blah, blah. Find the money, find the effort, find the resources. Most people will do what they do because they love it more so than for the money. And so the opportunity might not be the immediate salary. Maybe the opportunity is going to be the cash bonus at the end of the year, or the opportunity to be a part of the stock portfolio or the ownership of the company in the future. These are things that the key employee benefits or whatever that is. You can think of things to bonus and benefit people other than cash. So just think of everything that you can deliver. That might be professional development. That might be, opportunities to do something fun and interesting. I used to work my tail off for movie tickets. We had weekly sales competitions, and I would win every week. Why? Because I wanted the free movie tickets. I could afford to buy the movie tickets. It's no big deal. But I liked winning the tickets, and I liked being able to tell my friends who would come in from out of town or whatever, I'll take it to the movies. It's on me. Let's go. And it was no skin off my back because the company paid for it. That was an incentive. And as soon as they stopped that incentive, I stopped producing because that was a fun incentive for me. It just didn't work well with my other teammates. So it's important that you think about each individual and what incentives you can provide them to help them stay engaged and stay on the moving path of moving forward. If you don't think about them individually and you try to group them together and we're going to get a team reward, right? And we're going to wait till we win the success. I got a feeling the rewards are not going to be frequent enough and they're not going to be personal enough to matter when it needs to matter. So think about that. Don't be afraid of success. Give those awards while you can, and make sure that you participate in those things. Get the best people, right? Number 5, you're not afraid of success. You've done the right things you need to do. Number 5, you cannot waste talent. No wasted talent allowed. Now, what do I mean by that? When you have a team, and you might have thought that you recruited somebody to do a certain portion or a certain job or have a certain responsibility to be a part of the team. But guess what? You're going to find as you get to know people, they can do a lot more or even some different things. And you may find the skill or the talent that you identified them for might be a secondary talent, a skill for them. That's not really their real talent or skill. They just happen to be the thing they know how to do. But when you find their real gift, their real thing, you got to figure out how to deploy that. You got to figure out how to use that. Oftentimes, which is one of the reasons why I say leave room for everybody to create back at number 3, because you're going to find that as you move forward, people reveal a different skill, maybe even a skill they didn't even know they had. That's absolutely credible and absolutely useful and absolutely meaningful. So find ways to engage them. Find ways to stretch them. Remember the stretch goal, right? Just stretch them a little bit further than they think the capabilities are, and then, support them to get to that next level of capability. You'd be surprised how much they would value your contributions when you do that for them, right? As a leader, make sure that you understand that everybody on the team prior to has felt like their leaders have ignored them, because that's what the leadership models we have taught in the past have helped leaders to do. And so you want people to be engaged. You want to give them the attention, especially you want to give them the attention that you want them to give to the effort that you want them to shoot for. It's okay. Spend more time than you think you should with your individual team members. I know some of you all may say, well, I don't have the time. Make the time. Dr. Covey, I'll never forget when he shared these nuggets with me. He said something that I'll never forget. He said, quality time with people is found inside of quantity time with people. When people are spending quantity time with each other, what happens is special moments show up that they did not plan, but there they are. An example that Dr. Covey would give is, families who have dinner together regularly will always find that one moment where somebody told a joke or a funny story or did some kind of shenanigans that we all remember, and everybody else you play back that same story for years. One of the most significant things that I think that happens to my family is one Thanksgiving, I got the notion that not only was I going to do the Thanksgiving turkey, I was going to fry the turkey. Now, we never had fried turkey before, and no one else in the family had ever done fried turkey. I just heard of these wonders that fried turkey offered, and I wanted to try it out. I wanted to do it for myself. And so I went and got a turkey fryer. I think I borrowed it from a friend, and I set it up in the garage. I think you know where this is going. And I didn't think about the ventilation and what was necessary and how much grease and all that kind of stuff I needed. And so, I made a lot of rookie mistakes in this process, and I didn't thaw the turkey out all the way before I stuck it in the fryer. It just was a mess. So I knew to watch for fire in the garage, right? So I didn't set the garage on fire. But I did smoke the place out badly, right? And because I didn't think to open the door. So, to let the smoke ventilate, the grease and all that kind of stuff. Because I had grease smell all over my garage and all over my wife's precious things, which she did not appreciate. But I also made the mistake of overcooking the turkey, because I didn't pay attention to the watches and clocks and the timers and the temperature and all that kind of stuff. So now I had an overcooked fried bird on Thanksgiving. And nobody let me live that down. Every year since. And this happened maybe 17 years ago. Every year since, everybody reminds me of the time that old Marvin burnt up the fried turkey, right? So you don't want, but it's fun though. It's fun, and it's fun at my expense, but what you want to do is it couldn't have happened if we hadn't had the annual Thanksgiving tradition. Now, other things have happened over the years that we've done that have been so memorable. And almost every time we get together, we recall those moments when we did this, or somebody said that, or grandmother was here, or so on and so forth. So, you create these traditions, right? But if you are meeting frequently with people, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're meeting with frequently, quality time will show up. If you try to plan quality time, that's when you miss it. If you say, it's time for quality time, guys, people start looking at you like, okay, now what? And if you don't have anything that's generating whatever quality is, you're probably going to be coming up short. So a good thing to think about is to make sure that you pay attention to people in the right way. Pay attention to them individually, pay attention to them collectively, but pay attention, because we all have what I call attention deficit, meaning none of us get enough attention. Attention for human beings is like water and sunlight to flowers. If you want to watch somebody bloom, if you want to watch somebody grow, if you want to watch somebody just engage and participate, give them the right amount of attention. You give them attention, they'll give you back accountability. It's very, very important. And you've got to give it to them frequently. If they know they're going to be meeting with you every single week or every other week to have some quality time with you or have time with you, then they're more likely to think about their productivity is going to go through the roof, by the way. They're going to be more productive because they know that this is time for us to report. This is time for us to have our accountability session. This is time for them to share with you what they're doing and for you to share with them, what you're doing to become a better leader for them. You even get to ask them, and I love this. For probably since my daughter was in 4th grade, I've had a weekly session with her where I've taken her out to dinner, and it gives mom a break. We're not doing anything, and she can able to hang out with her friends or whatever, do girls' night, whatever she wanted to do. And I'll take the daughter out to dinner, and it would just be me and her. And during that dinner, I would always ask her, okay, so how am I doing as a dad? I would ask her, give me your feedback. What can I do better? How can I be better? And then I would let her tell me, because I want to be the world's greatest dad, but the world's greatest dad in the eyes of my daughter. And so the only person who knows and can measure that is her. And me giving her that permission to tell me how to be a better dad actually helped her be a better daughter. Crazy, right? Attention. Pay attention. The right kinds of attention are the things that you got to do to make sure you're not wasting the talent and people are not running away from you, they're running to you. The last of the 6 steps when it comes to building incredible teams is death to redundancy. This is counter to, I know, everything we've ever taught and ever learned as leaders. We want to make sure we have plan A, plan B, plan C when it comes to people. We want to make sure if one person can't do it, we can depend on somebody else to pick up the slack and do it. When you have those redundant efforts on your team, then nobody feels special. Nobody feels important. Everybody feels like they're replaceable. And I just read a post from a wonderful leadership coach that I'm actually following and taking a class with right now on Coursera. And I was looking at a quote that somebody left him on the chat in his LinkedIn program, I think. Or maybe it might have been YouTube. I can't remember. But the guy was, when he was telling them, like, you don't want people to think they're replaceable. He said, well, everybody's replaceable. That's the guy's quote. He's like, everybody's replaceable, and I don't want people on my team to think that they're not replaceable because I want them to be fearful. And I thought, well, yeah, what you're going to have is less than productive people. Because when people don't feel like they're vital or useful or meaningful, or their contributions matter because somebody else could just do it, they just pick up the slack, then I know what I know is, and the science holds this to be true, is those people do not feel like they're giving a meaningful contribution. There are some people, there's a term called working in place. I think that's the term I'm looking for. And where that's when people are literally just, they're taking up space, but they're not making a major contribution. And they're not making a major contribution because people have figured out how to work around them. And not only have people figured out how to work around them, they've figured out a way to marginalize them. They got a space, they got an office, they got whatever, telephone system, whatever, and they can sit there and twiddle their thumbs all day because nobody's going to ask them to do anything. And nobody's going to fire them. This is not something you want to have on the team. If you have this on the team, if you have redundancy, too much redundancy on the team, then no one's going to feel meaningful. No one's going to feel specific. No one's going to feel like they have a unique anything to offer. And so they're not going to feel special. If they don't feel special, they're not going to contribute as much as they would contribute if they felt like they were special, if they felt like they were delivering something of meaning. So I know what you're asking me, what does any of this have to do with networking? Everything. It has to do everything with networking. Because if you are building even a network for yourself, which you all should be thinking about doing, if you're building a network for yourself, you're going to want that network you want to work certain factions of that network, not all of them, to work together. And you're going to want them to know each other and trust each other, right? So you got to learn how to pull together. You're going to want that network to contribute to one another, not just receive the benefits of working together, but contribute to one another, right? So there's no room for a whole bunch of ego involved. Everybody's got to check their ego, and it starts with you as a leader. So if you can check your ego, they can check their ego. You're going to want everyone to be participant in the creations of the next opportunities for the team or for the network, because you want them to be able to bring new things to light. You want them to bring new opportunities for you. You want them to bring and see new places to grow for every individual on the team, including yourself, right? So you want to do that. You want to make sure that they're not afraid, that they feel like they belong to something, that they can fall back into the arms of you as a leader or the team. You want them to feel like they can do amazing things. So you don't want them to be afraid, and you want them to push to be better. That means your expectations have to be correct, not so much that you break them, but enough that you support them in doing more than they thought they could do by themselves. The team can help you with that, right? You want them to be able to identify and use their gifts to the best of their ability. Everybody in your network should be appreciative of you and other people in your network, because you're helping them to take their gifts and take them to the next level. And then you don't want them to feel like, they're just like everybody else. They're the same. They're not individuals. They're not important. They're not vital. You want them to feel vital. You want them to feel meaningful. You want them to feel like they're important. And so is everybody else. But you want them to feel also important. So think about that. If you do this well, then you're going to be a great networker. You're going to be a great leader. You're going to be a great team leader. You're going to be a great person that people can come to and ask advice and opinions and expertise and trust you really, really well, because you will be initiating all this good stuff, all this good positive energy around you. So if you have questions about any of the 6 team building ideas, throw them in the chat. I don't know if the chat's going at all. Okay, I see everybody, and everybody is on Facebook. There's nobody on YouTube. Jean's here. Let me see who's still here. Okay, yeah, I see everybody. Rose is here. Hey, Rose. Travis Davis is here. That's awesome. Way cool, guys. So listen, if you haven't already, put your name in the chat, as well as what you do. If there's anything you want people to link to or go check out, do me a favor and invite them to do so. If you have a question about anything we talked about earlier, go ahead and throw that question in there. Now, I know some of you all may be passively watching this, but if you can engage, that'd be really good. Also, I'm going to If there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and upload some documents and some things I want you to take a look at that might be helpful for you later on. And one of those things is going to be my LinkedIn program that I talked about earlier. This is the 6 incredible team building ideas that I talked about. And so let me go ahead and link that in, put that in the chat box right now. There it is. Boom. There you go. Cool. All right, so you have that. And I also put in there, Gene says, I have a question about finding the right people to be in a win-win relationship. Here's a great way to think about that. And this is where you have to do some future vision casting for yourself. Where do you want to be? When you think about yourself in the future, say 3 years, 5 years out, right? What do you want to be, do, and have? And when you start thinking about those things, there are going to be people associated with those concepts, those ideas. Say I'm going to buy a house in 3 to 5 years. Well, I need to then be associated with the best realtors that I can find, the best mortgage professionals that I can find. Right? They're going to help me with the finance, maybe financial professionals too, as well. So they're going to help me with the financial ideas. They're going to help me with, putting together the right type of mortgage at the right time. They're going to help me with finding the right place and the right strategy and the thing I want, right? You can start engaging them in relationship right now before you need them. Or if you're saying for my business, I need to have just a wonderful website. I need to have a wonderful website that's better than anything I've seen so far in my industry. Then you're going to start to engage the best people in web development that are out there. So you need to start building friendships in those areas. I also think about this. If you ever did a SWOT analysis on yourself to measure your strengths, your weaknesses, and your opportunities and threats, right? And I suggest this in the article, by the way. So if you get the article, if you download the article, you'll see an opportunity for you to do that. But think about that. Measure, give yourself that SWOT analysis process and start thinking it through, your strengths. What do you need to do to maximize your strengths, and who can help you maximize your strengths? What do you need to do to mitigate your weaknesses, and who can help you mitigate your weaknesses? And if you find people and you invite them into your network who can help you and will help you mitigate your weaknesses, you'll find that your weaknesses are pretty much associated with their strengths, and your strengths are associated with their weaknesses. And so it'll be easy for you guys to come together and figure out how to support each other, cover each other's deficits, and together you can do more than you can ever do apart. So if you think about that, whatever it is you have a weakness in, even if it's, you need to be better at time management. You find somebody who's excellent at time management, and you don't pay them, but you find ways to support them in what they need to do. Or maybe somebody in your network who can support them in whatever they need to do. And so that's how we all win. I think that one of my best examples is my grandfather. My grandfather and I spent at least 4 summers together when I was growing up. And I remember every day, he lived in Southern Virginia, and every day my grandfather and I would go down on the farm where he's, when I say down on the farm, he lived in the city or the township, I should say, but we owned a family farm out in the country in this little town called Emporia, Virginia. And so my grandfather would come home from work at the textile mill where he worked. And then he would load up his truck and we go out to the farm. And I go with him on most occasions until I got too bored with it. But when I was very young, I went with him. And so he would tell me stories about the family. He would tell me all kinds of good stuff. And then he'd spend time doing whatever he was doing on the farm, feeding the pigs or weeding the garden or picking whatever was right that needed to be picked from wherever it needed to be picked. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of picking we had to do. And so we would come home sometimes and we'd have like a bushel of peas and some tomatoes and maybe some corn. And then before we would come back, he'd stop by his friends and family members on the way back to town. And invariably, he'd give them, half a dozen tomatoes or a dozen tomatoes, and they give him some apples. And he'd make another stop. He'd give somebody else, a couple of bushels of corn, and they give him, a few squirrels or something, whatever. And, vice versa. And you find he found over the years that they had strengths in areas that he did not. And so he leveraged their strengths and they leveraged his. And by the time we got home, we had everything we needed for a great salad, everything we needed for a full meal, everything we needed was in the truck. And granddad would give it to grandma and say, okay, here you go, baby, let's go. And then she'd get in the kitchen and work the magic. So I think that I learned from that example is that when you pay attention to people, when you pay attention to one another, you can see the strengths. And when you ask the right questions, when you are engaged with people, you can figure out what their talents are. And once you figure out what their talents are, and you start to build relationships with them, then you can then leverage those gifts after you have that relationship. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. And is this a skill that comes with time? And should we use the same strategies you mentioned before about a litmus test? Yes, you should use the same strategies about a litmus test. And it doesn't necessarily take time. It just takes know-how and the willingness to try. The more you engage, the more you attempt to engage with people especially people that you have a high level of respect for. You want them to be in your network. You want them to be close to you because they're going to then turn around. And again, remember I told you, we all have attention deficit, or we have a deficit of attention. We don't get enough attention, right? Not attention deficit disorder. Well, some of us have that, but we don't really get enough attention. And so even those that you might think that are on the social ladder, maybe above you or whatever that is, they don't get enough attention either from anybody. And so sometimes all you have to do is applaud them for their efforts or their experience or their expertise and share with them how impressive they are to you. And the next thing you know, they'll be willing to give you the shirt off their back. You want time and attention from somebody else? Give time and attention to the people that you want it from. And you'll be able, the law of reciprocity will kick in. They will give that back to you because they'll feel the social responsibility to return the favor. But follow the techniques. I've given you what 7 weeks worth of techniques to follow that will help you, get into these relationships. And so if there's something that's missing, let me know. I don't think there is, but if there's something that's missing, let me know. We'll fill it in somewhere. I'll create another program about it. Anybody else have any questions about anything related to networking, developing relationships, anything? I'm looking forward to answering those questions and getting involved. Travis, I see you out there. That's great. Jasmine's out there too. Awesome. Let me see there's some other people. Rose is out there. So anybody have any questions, feel free to fire away. Hey, Scott, good to see you, brother. I'm glad that you're on the call. I appreciate you. I miss you, man. I miss you. My wife is trying to kick me out the house. She went and bought some athletic face masks for me, so she's forcing me now. I got to get out and play racquetball. But I'm only going outside for now, even though I'm paying for the gym membership again. Anyhow. But I'll be playing outside from now on, probably 3 or 4 times a week in the evenings. So if you wanna hang out and play, I'm allowed to play with you, Scott, but I'm not allowed to play with anybody else. So let me know if you want to do that. Any other questions about anything? Okay, I just want to point out to you that I connected you all to an article that I wrote called "The 6 Incredible Team Building Ideas" that I just shared with you. And at the end of that are some helpful exercises that I think if you do those exercises, it's really, really going to help you learn everything you need to learn to develop teams, but become more skilled at developing the teams that you want to have, and more thoughtful. And there's nothing wrong with being thoughtful. There's nothing wrong with bringing your A game to whatever, because you're going to want people that work with you to bring their A game to you. And you got to be willing. And again, the law of reciprocity is out there. You got to be willing to put the investment of time, effort, and energy in other people if you want them to put the investment of time, effort, and energy in you. And I think that's a critically important lesson that we all have to learn and maintain a truthful balance of. A lot of us are over volunteered, or we put so much time into other people, but we don't do it correctly, and so we don't win the way we should be winning. We don't feel like we're getting a return on relationship, right? And I think that it's key. The steps that we're sharing with you, step 1 through 9, are all important to learning. Now, this week we talk about how to create the right kinds of winning teams. Next week, we're going to talk about planning. We're going to talk about strategy, how to create the strategy that is going to take you to the moon. But I will tell you, strategy without the people in place is just strategy. You're not going to be able to do it if you don't have the right team. So when you look at the 9 steps, understand this is a ladder. You can't miss one rung on the steps of the ladder, or you're going to find yourself in a failure situation. And so if you haven't, go back and check out the other videos, kind of work your way up the ladder, understanding from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all the way up. And then when we get to step 9, at that point, you'll be ready for, masterful level execution. You'll be ready. You've done everything you need to do. You've built the right relationships. You've got the team in place. You understand the strategy that you're going to be using, and now it's time to start running. It's time to really go for the big, big goals. And that's what we'll do in not next week, but the week after next. Next Friday, I'll be broadcasting, hopefully, from the mountains. I'll be up in Massanutten, and that will help me to create some opportunities for you guys, because you'll get a chance to view this thing from a different place than just my lovely office here. So let's pray that it all works out, because I'm going on forced vacation this week, and so I'll be up in the mountains, and we'll be trying to do a lot of work and a couple of different broadcasts and things like that. So I hope you guys are hanging there with me. Any other questions, any other things that you want to share or talk about or anything like that? If I don't see any next couple of minutes, I'm going to get on out of here. Also, want to remind you guys that if you're watching this on Facebook, definitely hit the like button, or send a comment. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, same thing. I prefer engagement over the like button, but if that's all you can do is hit the like button, just hit the like button. I appreciate everything. If you can, share this with your friends. There's going to be I'm going to rebroadcast this tomorrow morning as a Facebook rebroadcast. I forget what they call that thing, but a watch party. Yes, we're gonna have a watch party, and then we'll do that tomorrow, and it'll always be up on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm trying to get LinkedIn to let me simulcast to LinkedIn, and I'm going to be having some special guests in a couple of weeks. They're going to talk about just some amazing stuff, so definitely stay tuned. If there's a topic, that's what I wanted to mention. If there's a topic that you're interested in, you want to explore, maybe if you want to be a guest, let me know. Hit me up in the instant message or hit me up in the chat. We'll see. We'll talk about it. I want to make sure I'm responsive to what the audience wants to hear. I'm hoping that what we've talked about so far is interesting to you guys. If not, let me know. I want to know that too. So I'm always up for feedback, good or bad. It doesn't matter to me. I will take it all as feedback. Okay, cool beans. I don't see any more questions. I don't see any more feedback. I think we're going to boogie on out of here. It was great to hang out with you guys. I really appreciate the time and really appreciate you for being here with us. And again, hope if you watch the broadcast, the rebroadcast, feel free to still get involved with the chat and ask any questions. I will make sure that I go on and resolve or answer those questions. If I don't, hit me up again. Send me an instant message, either in whatever platform that we're working from, right? And I'll pay attention. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. And I am out of here.